Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. So today I thought I would just kind of go through my anime list and just kind of talk about the shows that I've completed. I know that generally when I'm making a video, there's a lot of things that kind of run through my head whenever I'm watching it. And the shows that I actually do want to talk about generally have like some sort of moral or lesson at the very end that, is something that I can actually elaborate and talk about. But there are a lot of shows that you can't really do that. They're just good shows. And I mean, there are a lot of aspects about one particular show when you can talk about the art or the animation, voice acting, the music, but those aren't necessarily things that I feel like I'm super qualified to talk about. So I generally just stick to the story and the writing, and that's about it, and just kind of try to apply it in some personal manner. By the way, if I sound a little bit dead, I played like 2 games of League right before recording this, and we lost both of them, so I'm a little sad about that. And they're both very, very winnable. Anyway, this video might be a little bit long, so I probably will put chapters. I'll go through this in like alphabetical order, so I'll probably put like ABC, and then if there are any particular titles that I potentially watched, you can go check it out like that. But anyway, I just want to start with my currently watching, since with the thumbnail of this video, I thought about Hololive, specifically Holo No Graffiti, which, if you've never seen it before, basically the official Hololive channel puts out these 2-minute shorts every single Sunday featuring the talents. Honestly, it proves that Hololive is like the best comedy slice of life anime you can ever find. And it's such a good example of what makes Hololive kind of special. And obviously, since it's only 2 minutes, it can't feature the whole cast, so sometimes your Oshi is there, sometimes they're not, and when they do show up, it's a little bit of a surprise, but very welcome at that. And just like in general, as Hololive, you watch clips, you watch 3D lives, you watch the streams, listen to the music, and just watching this, it feels like it's just a good time. Like, Hololive definitely was the main anime that I watched in fall 2020 when there's nothing else to watch. Hololive and Hololive clips really just dominated my entire entertainment sphere. And the thing is, there was nothing really like it, since it borders between the line of real life streamer and script. And I mean, obviously, Holo No Graffiti is very scripted, but because of the interactions that you're able to have in the streams, it doesn't feel like too out of the ordinary for some of the things to happen. And there's some crazy things that happen in there. So, I mean, if you are a fan of Hololive, you've probably heard of this, but if you aren't, watching this probably wouldn't make sense. Okay, so let's get into completed. So, starting off, we have 1. This is like a 30-second animation practice of like windshield wipers. I don't know why I watched this. I don't even know where I watched this. I think it was just because like it's a number, and like that's why a lot of people watched it, and I looked it up for some reason. So March Comes In Like a Lion. Now, I watched this in like summer of 2020, I want to say. And if you don't know what March Comes In Like a Lion is about, it follows a shogi player. He's a prodigy, and the way I would describe it is that it kind of has a really good sense of world building for a slice of life. What I mean by that is that you actually delve into other characters, and you're able to see their inner mechanics in their lives. And because it's a drama, like, that's necessary, but generally in a slice of life, you're kind of just going through with one character and maybe a secondary character, and they kind of just overcome things. Well, with this, it's more focused around, let's try to dive into everyone and see like how they're all getting through just life in general and their struggles. And while it is like a shogi anime, shogi is more used as like a vehicle to tell different stories and meet different people. And I mean, it even goes outside of that into the 2nd season, where I think it really starts to shine. I was originally like kind of put off from the anime just because of the art, but after watching Monogatari series, I kind of went on like a Shaft binge, and this was one of the shows that people talked about, and it's a bit of a slow burn, yes, like it's 40 It's 44 episodes in total. But if you're looking for something that will kind of help give you a little bit of guidance and comfort, you can actually find it here. It does touch a lot about like depression and the kind of the main protagonist's journey to overcoming it. And I think the artistic metaphors that they use throughout the show actually really help to capture what it's like to be under that and kind of help you relate with them. But yeah, it's not a show that I would say is entertaining to watch, but it's something that you can enjoy and you can learn something from it. And I think that's something we're going to see here a lot today, is that there's a distinguish between what is something that's good that you can just put on and enjoy, or what's something that you can just watch and you sit down and you kind of use that to think a little bit. And usually those are the ones that have the most profound effect. Quintessential quintuplets. This show, I mean, it's good. I think the first season was good. The second season, I don't think was as good. I don't know what I found cute about the first season, but the second season, I think there was just too much melodrama and things just didn't need to happen the way they did. Yeah, I know a lot of people like it. I mean, personally, it's like, I'm not the biggest fan of the harem genre. I don't know why I found myself watching it. I don't even know why I watched it. I think I watched it in the first place because of the opening. And then I felt obligated to watch the second season. And I'll probably watch the movie. But yeah, it's okay. 86. I mean, a lot of people really hyped up 86 about being something that could rival like Attack on Titan, which I thought was a bold statement. I thought it was good, clearly by a 7. And I'm not the biggest fan of mechas. I don't know, there's just something about the world building that just didn't really capture me from the first episode. Like, I saw what it was trying to do, like, oh hey, there's these like, you know, there's a civilization where it's this like specific one race, and then there's the other race, which is the 86, and they're living in this different colony, and they have to fight to survive, and the people on the inside think that, oh, you know, we're just using drones to fight. They're actually real life people. And, you know, just having that mental warfare of people that command them to go into battle. Like, can you live with that mental pressure, that the fact that you're sending out these faceless soldiers out into war? But I don't know, maybe just my mindset wasn't the best. But if you're into your mecha and you like your Samano tracks, I mean, I think you'll have a good time with this. A New Journey, I think this was like a League music video. Yeah. Aho Girl, I watched this, I think on like a Saturday morning, where I woke up at like 7 in the morning, and I think I saw a meme face, and I was like, oh, let me just watch this, because I think the episodes are only like 12 minutes. So I just sat in bed and I just watched it, and I mean, it's okay. Like, it's just a lighthearted comedy anime. It didn't really stick with me. It's like a girl that likes bananas and she's stupid, as by the name. Akame ga Kill. Okay, I feel like this is a controversial take, but I actually really liked Akame ga Kill. And I know people talk about like, oh, the manga was better, but I was honestly fine with what happened in the anime. I wasn't particularly sad about what happens either. Oh, the reason I like Akame ga Kill is that I like it when the protagonists are seen as the bad guys. We'll see that with Seven Deadly Sins and Saga of Tanya the Evil, but I really like it. So like having Night Raid be like an assassin edge group, I thought it was a really cool concept. The music is actually really good. There are 2 specific tracks that are excellent, that I actually would like listen into my free time. But yeah, I don't know why people said that it was bad. I could see why people say it's not their cup of tea. Like, yes, maybe like it's a little bit too edgy, but I think when I was my mental space when I was watching this, I had just finished like watching like Eurocamp and like a little bit of Fairy Tail, so I wanted something a little bit bad to happen, and this was kind of perfect. Akira. So I liked Akira. I feel like I need to go and rewatch it just because I've heard people like really rave about it, and you know, it was a very revolutionary movie for, I think it came out in 1988. I think I watched this at like 7:30 in the morning because I wanted to watch something, because I woke up early and I was like, you know what, I want to put on a show. And I think Akira was just a movie. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch this. I don't think I was prepared for what was gonna happen. Now that I look back at it in like retrospect, like the cyberpunk kind of theme is actually really, really good. And like again, like I can't really comment on art and animation, but I heard that the manga has very, very good art. And the manga is like actually finishes the story, where Akira was only like halfway through, I want to say. But yeah, I mean, iconic movie. I would definitely give it a watch if you have time, obviously. I think it's only like an hour and a half. This next one is Sweetness and Lightning. This is about a single dad who has a daughter, and he's a teacher, and the girl is a student, and I think they just learn how to cook together, and that's really it. Like, it's a good show. I don't think it's necessarily going to say anything profound. I think you could potentially find something there, but I mean, it's just a lighthearted, good comedy show about kind of the troubles of being a single parent and trying to raise a child. There is a bit of romance between the teacher and the student. It's not like very explicit, but like it's a little bit implied, and you know, it kind of sounds like the premise to Domestic Girlfriend a little bit. It's got the teacher student there, single dad. But anyway, I mean, it's a good show. If you want a nice lighthearted show, good show, good try. It's a good show. Monkey Brilliant Park. I think I watched this because of, I think I was going on a Kyoto Annie binge. The opening song was really nice, I remember. This is basically a theme park tycoon builder. Like, he inherits a theme park and he needs to make a certain amount of money by a certain amount of time, and that's it. And it just has like a funny kind of cast of characters that it kind of goes on, like how like Disney would be like very squeaky clean, but then the characters are very like kind of raunchy and like violent. There's also a lot of fan service, which I typically don't mind, but I just thought it was a little weird at times. Yeah, I mean, it's a good show. It's an okay show. I thought it was okay. You might find enjoyment in it. This is a song by the same person that did the Domestic Girlfriend opening. I'm talking a lot about Domestic Girlfriend. It's okay. I hope I won't talk about it too much. It only has some pretty great songs, so honestly, just check it out. Angel Beats. Okay, I did not like Angel Beats. I think I binge watched it. People hyped up Angel Beats about being like very, very, very sad show, and I honestly didn't really feel that sad. Even like the very last, the graduation episode, I didn't feel that sad. I did get a little bit sad with like the Rockstar girl. I don't even remember their names, because that's the problem, is that, you know, this is 13 episodes and they have such a big cast of characters. And I guess, okay, spoilers for Angel Beats. The problem with Angel Beats is that I feel like they haven't given enough time to actually develop all the characters. So then when people are actually fading away and, you know, moving on with their lives, the emotional impact just really isn't there. Like, everyone is just kind of like a character, and they're just kind of one-dimensional characters. Because I think this was actually an original, but if this was made into like a visual novel, I feel like that would have been a lot better. Other than that, I mean, the music's good, the art good, but I think that just the story just kind of falls flat. And it's really unfortunate, because I really wanted to like the show, and people talk about it and say like, you know, this is one of their saddest shows that they watch, but when I was going through it, like, it's all like happy, and then it was like kind of comedy, and then there was like fictitious like drama, and they kind of play off that, like they try to like take things seriously, but, you know, they make a joke out of it, and then like some sad things actually happen, and then there's like the shadow things that show up like the last like 3 or 4 episodes, and yeah, I don't know, I think it just fell flat with pacing. Anohana was actually the first anime to like make me full on ugly cry. Like, when I got to the last episode, I knew something sad was gonna happen, but there was just like this weird guttural feeling that just made me start shedding tears. Anohana manages to do something in 11 episodes that, you know, anime will struggle to do in like 24 or 36, 48 episodes. Like, I feel like it said what it needed to do. It kind of went through the way that each of the childhood friends were going through Menma's death, and her reaction to her, you know, showing up. And I think it kind of resolved it in a nice way, that they all kind of just get together, and they're all not necessarily happy, but they're able to come to terms with the fact that what happened. And honestly, I feel like with a show like this, it's not really the story that's going to convey you, it's just kind of the emotional connections that you make. At least for me, I kind of connected with all the characters pretty well. And that just made the very last episode just hit that much harder. I think when I watched this, when I even listened to the opening, I started tearing up, and I thought, I'm gonna watch like the whole thing in this whole sitting. I'm actually gonna get destroyed by the end of this. And I was. When I finished the last episode, I just kind of had to sit there and just stare at the ceiling. It's one of those shows where you just finish it and like a big sigh of relief, like this is over. I need to do something so I can get my mind off of this. But excellent show. Very sad. If you're looking for a show to make you cry, I would recommend this. This is like the classroom version of like Among Us. I think there's like a whole mystery of like this girl that shows up. It's like a very campy style of horror. It like, I think like the first 3/4 are pretty good, and then when you get to the end, the last 4 episodes are kind of, they feel a little whack, but they make sense. I would describe this as a very unsettling show. Like everything that happens just feels not gross, but weird. And like it was honestly like a show that kind of encapsulated horror and thriller pretty well, at least for me when I was watching it. I just don't think it had like anything like explicit to say. Like it didn't really hit me that hard. I was like, okay, this, it's just a good story. I think it is a little weak at some points, but I think for what it's trying to present, it does it pretty okay. Assassination Classroom, I mean, it's good. I think it suffers from the same thing that Angel Beats suffered from, in that there is such a wide cast of characters that everyone kind of does get their own episode. I don't think everyone gets an episode though, but a lot of the characters, they get like an episode kind of dedicated to them, and there's obviously like the main trio. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good show, especially the very end of season 2. Very sad. I don't think it made me cry, but it's a very sad ending. Yeah, I think a lot of people already know this though, so whether or not you want to give it a shot, it's about a class that needs to kill their teacher, and he's an octopus, and I mean, you've probably seen memes about it anyway, so. Asiobi Asubase, this is a really funny show. This is my type of peak comedy. It's just, the voice actors are screaming like 24/7, and the faces that they make just make the jokes so much better. It's about girls that make this like pastime club, and I mean, it's just a really good, really funny slice of life. If you want to have a good time, this is a very good show to watch. Beco was a ride. I think I binge watched it, and honestly, I feel like that might be necessary just because of how many moving parts. Beco is basically set in 3 different time periods, and if a story is generally like from A, B, C, D, Beco tells them in like D, B, A, C, and it kind of goes through like there's multiple main characters, there are multiple timelines, there's multiple stories going on, and occasionally occasionally the characters come together, and you slowly begin to understand like why all these characters are meeting at these specific places, and kind of understanding how all of it kind of fits in together into this one cohesive story. It does really well. The specials I don't think were as strong as the main series, but I mean, definitely if you have not watched Beco, give yourself a solid. Definitely put this on your plan to watch this. The music, also great. Bucket to Test, I thought was a cool concept. I thought it was going to be like an RPG where you level up by learning, but it really wasn't that. Like, I just remember there's like different classes, and they're like, if you're in class A, you're like the smartest of the smart, and that determines like how good your classroom is. I think maybe it says a lot about society. Maybe there's like some societal implications that, you know, people that are well off will typically be smarter, and they'll typically do well in an educational setting, which will set them up for success in the future. And those that don't have that, you know, obviously will not follow that same route. But maybe if you work hard, you're able to achieve class A material. I don't really know, but a lot of the characters were just very stereotypical characters. Like they have the tsundere, they have the pervert, they have the lolly, like very rudimentary stuff. I don't know if the comedy necessarily hit every single time as well. Yeah, I mean, it's an okay show. Bakemono no Ko, I watched this recently, and honestly, I thought it was just okay. Like, it's like a two-way isekai of a guy that goes to an animal world where they have like martial arts, and then an animal world, and then he goes back and he like meets with a girl and they start learning. And I thought it was just an okay movie. Like, I think some of the fight scenes were cool, but other than that, I don't know. Bakemonogatari, okay. I mean, this is on my anime 3x3 for a reason. Like, watching the first 2 episodes never gave me the greatest like whiplash ever. I don't think the Monogatari series is for everyone. I think if you don't mind having to read a lot and reading a little bit quickly, I mean, this is a fun show. Like, I just think the best part about the Monogatari series is just how it's just that every single shot can be basically treated as wallpaper material, and I think there's a lot of like, you know, philosophical, psychological themes you can kind of explore with each arc. Yeah, I mean, I would just give this a shot. If you haven't seen it, like, watch like the first 2 episodes, and that kind of gives a pretty good flavor of what Monogatari series is going to offer you. Bakugan Battle Brawlers. Why do I have this on here? I did watch this, but I watched it as a kid. I mean, I owned them as a kid. I think, like, watching the show, I was like, oh, I could see Dragonoid constructed and rolling out, and like, it's, don't watch it. if you're like over the age of like 13, 12, I don't think there's a reason to watch this. Barakamon. Barakamon was actually it was a good show. I think it's a very kind of calming show. It's about calligraphy, which doesn't inherently sound interesting, but I think there's a lot of stuff to be found that I think it just says stuff about kind of like not necessarily just only working in a creative field, but like people that work in both creative fields or just jobs in general, and kind of having like a general burnout of just having weight just solely put on you, but then knowing the fact that you have a community to go back and rely on. I think that's what makes this show very special. Bartender is a weird show. Basically, every single episode it features this hidden bar that people will find. It's not a bar that you find, but a bar that comes to you, basically. It's what it advertised itself as. And it's just a slice of life of not only like the art of bartending and making the perfect drink, but also the people and the patrons that you meet and the regulars that start coming in. And it's a very relaxing show. It's a very episodic, kind of slow-paced show. Yeah, there's not really much to say about it, honestly. Big Order. This is like Big Order. Big Order is basically like Code Geass and like JoJo, but if you made it terrible. I don't remember anything like specifically about the show. I just remember that I hated it because it wasn't boring. It was just badly written. I think they just used a lot of like CGI and it didn't look good. If you want a bad show to watch, you should watch Big Order. This next one is more commonly known as Erased. I know a lot of people look at the ending and they think it's bad, but honestly, Erased to me felt like a movie, especially when he went back as a kid. I think it was just because of the aspect ratio that really made it feel like that. I think Erased was a really cool concept that, you know, there's something going on in the real world and it's directly linked to something that happened in the past. So you need to go back to the past to figure out what happened and kind of correct the wrongs, and then that will eventually correct what happens in the present. I just don't think that his time traveling power was like explained super well. Maybe it is in the manga, but from what I remember, it's not really delved into that much. I think he gets pushed back like once to the present, and then he goes back again and he's able to figure everything out. But I think it presented a pretty good mystery. I just think that the villain was a little too obvious. I was able to figure out like maybe like 2 or 3 episodes before the reveal, and once you figure out like who the villain is, and they kind of start hinting to it like a little bit more and more before the reveal, it's like, okay, I get it. Can we move on? Can we get the reveal? I think it's, for what it presents in a 12 episode show, I think it does a pretty good job. Also, the opening, ending songs, bangers. My Hero Academia. I mean, where do I start? I'm gonna be honest, like, I might make a My Hero Academia video in the future, mainly because of the first and second seasons were so good. I really enjoyed the first and second season. I think the third and fourth season, it kind of starts to peter off, and especially, I haven't finished the fifth season. I got like halfway through, and I was like, I don't feel like watching this. I'll finish it eventually, just because I feel like My Hero is such a big franchise that it's probably going to see the entire manga be adapted. My Hero, to me, felt very special. Like, even on the first episode, like, the world building instantly sucked me in. Like, this is just, hey, what if all of us have superpowers? Isn't that cool? Like, I just think that the world building made sense. The music was great. I mean, animation done by Bones, especially in the second season, was amazing. I mean, you look at the Deku and Todoroki fight, and, like, come on. No, I think just like the third and fourth season, I still enjoyed them. I actually binge watched from the first to the fourth season in like a few days, I think. And I think there are like some profound things that it does say, while still being a pretty good superhero story. I just think that sometimes it feels a little bit, not necessarily immature, but I feel like I'm not the target audience, which, I mean, I definitely am not. So I kind of have a hard time being like, oh yeah, shonen, self-insert, go, friendship. But what I've heard from the My Villain Academia arc, I've heard that it's going to get better. If it does, great. I mean, as you can see here, like, I've seen the movies too, which, all I can say, like, they're okay. I mean, they're typical, like, shonen movies. Like, if you've seen the Naruto movies, they're like this. Not canon, just side stories. But if you want more time with the characters, which I did, give it a watch. 5 centimeters per second. I hated this. I hated this movie so much. To be fair, like, I've never had a long distance relationship, so that's probably why I didn't relate. I think it's just, maybe because like there's not really a nice conclusion, but maybe that's kind of the point, that there isn't supposed to be a nice conclusion. It starts off with these people, I think they're in middle school, and they fall in love, and they try to like make it work, and then they move on to high school, and they're just drifting a little bit further away, and then you see them in like being adults, and they're living their own lives, but like they still like think about each other, and I'm like, this, and it just kind of ends, and I'm just like, okay. Scissor of Despair. I mean, if you watch Iris, it is a fantastic song, animation. I mean, what more do you want? This seems weird because I don't have any Cardcaptor Sakura entries in my list, but I have the second movie. In college, my sophomore year, my roommate said that the only anime that he's watched is Cardcaptor Sakura, this second movie, and he was like, let's watch it, and I was like, okay, sure. We watched it. I think it's just okay. I don't understand Cardcaptor Sakura. I'm definitely not the target audience. That was like 2 hours that I wasted. Would I recommend it? I don't know. I don't really have much to say about that. Code Geass was a show that I dropped like 3 or 4 times just because I feel like I just got bored. Especially in like the first season. To be fair, I kind of had part of the ending of Code Geass spoiled. I feel like sometimes I got too caught up in like the scientific jargon and like the politics, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand all these moving parts. Why would they had a pizza party? Honestly, the best parts about Code Geass to me were like the slice of life moments where Lelouch needs to hide the fact that he's Zero. I thought that was like peak comedy. I don't care about him trying to overthrow Britannia. All I want to see is like him trying to hide the fact that he's like the #1 terrorist in the world, or in Japan. I mean, would I recommend Code Geass? I think it's a good example of a show that, it's an original, and it starts and it ends, and it says what it needs to, and it does what it needs to do. I just think that the path that it takes to get there, especially in the second season, is kind of messy, but it manages to do it and kind of wrap up all the loose ends. I just didn't feel super satisfied with the way that it ended. Conception is a bad show. It's about this guy that needs to like make love to like different maidens, and they'll make like zodiac children that will fight along him. It's an isekai. It's bad. It is bad. Again, if you have 5 hours to waste and you want to watch a bad show, go ahead and watch this. Crossroad, I think this is like an ad that, yeah, this was an ad, I think. This was like a 30-second ad. It looks pretty though. Defrag is about this like, it's about a high school club, and they're all like kind of like semi-chuny. It's a good show. It's like a very lighthearted, very fun show. There are a couple of anime that actually make me laugh a lot, but Defrag actually made me laugh. There are a couple of scenes that are running in my head right now that really stick out to me. Yeah, I'd highly suggest you give this a watch. Dagashi Kashi, I think I dropped this and then I was like, you know what, this is sitting on hold. Let me finish this. And I mean, it's about Japanese candy. It's slice of life. It has a little bit of ecchi. If you're into that, it's a good show. It's an okay show. Again, doesn't say anything like necessarily profound, but I don't think every show has to, especially a show about candy. It's a little bit over dramatic, but that the comedy plays into that. So yeah, I mean, good show. Darling in the Franxx was like, I don't understand what happened. Like, I think again, there was just too much scientific stuff that was going on. I'm like, I don't really care. I didn't really care about any of the characters. I just watched it because 02, and I kind of regret that decision. I will say though that at least the opening and the ending songs are all great. Most of them are great from what I remember. I mean, apart from 02, I don't think there's like anything that significant about the show. It does feel a little, I think it tries to present itself as like this very post-apocalyptic, like futuristic kind of dystopia, but mankind was like on the brink of extinction. But I don't know, I never really got captured in it. Death Note, okay, to be fair, I got spoiled on something that happens in Death Note. Death Note, the reason I give it such a high rating is that, I mean, number one, the music in Death Note is unlike anything I've heard in a show. It's like the subtle rock. It's so good. It's so good. Like Death Note, again, it's the idea that, hey, you have your protagonist Light and he is the bad guy. I just think that all the psychological battles that go on, they're all iconic. I don't think there was ever really a slow point in the show. Maybe like in the very latter half, but I think it's a great show. I know a lot of people talk about like there's a lot of like philosophical things that you can talk about here. You can analyze Light like crazy. Yeah, great show. If you haven't watched it, please don't be like me. Please watch it. Yeah, Death Note was one of those shows that like I knew I was gonna like, so I was kind of saving it for a rainy day, and literally on the first episode I was like, yeah, this is great. This is great. Death Parade, despite the kind of oxymoronic name, and if you ever listen to the opening, it's a very depressing show. It's kind of basically people that die at the same time. They go to this bar, and from there they play a game, and that game is kind of, and the way that they interact with the game determines whether they get reincarnated or they kind of get sent to like the abyss. And it's very episodic and kind of goes through different scenarios of people and the way that they come to terms with the fact that they're dead. Because when they show up, they don't know that they're dead, but then they kind of reveal that like, hey, you are dead. And it's a very human show. It's a very psychological show. It is very dark and kind of melancholic. But if you want one of those shows that will kind of prompt you to think about what it means to live, what it means to die, and coming to terms with that, yeah, Death Parade, great show. Okay, so I mean, we've gone from 2 great shows to literally the worst show that I've maybe had the displeasure of sitting through. Diabolic Lovers it's about vampires, and there's this girl, and she goes to this manor for some reason, and she gets trapped there, and basically there's like 5 vampire guys, and they all like want to suck her blood because, you know, they're vampires. And like I don't really remember what happens in this, because like there's barely anything that happens. Like every single episode, it's just her talking to like one of the guys, and they like delve into his quote unquote sad backstory, and then she's like, oh, okay, fine, you can have my blood, and that's it. That's how most of the episode goes. And like the second season, Diabolic Lovers More Blood, because yes, I watched the second season. I couldn't stop at the first. The second season, I think it either adds werewolves or it adds more vampires. I think it's more vampires. I don't think they went Twilight on this. And like the same thing kind of just happens. Like they're just fighting over her blood because her blood is apparently good or something. It's, again, if you have to waste time and you want a terrible show, Diabolic Lovers, it's up your alley. Domestic Girlfriend, okay. I mean, I will defend the manga. I think the manga is legitimately a good manga. I do kind of want to make a video about that, so I won't talk about the manga, but the anime was just kind of just trashy moments without character development. I think if you want to appreciate Kei Sasuke's art, go read the manga. If you want to appreciate the story and the kind of the characters, go read the manga. I think that the arcs that we're able to actually go through in the manga help to solidify that Domestic Girlfriend is actually like is actually well written. I think decently well written. Is it the greatest romance to ever exist? No, but I don't think it set out to be. It starts out as like a spice fest, right? Right, you're moving in, right? There's the girl that you slept with, there's the teacher that you're in love with, and then, you know, your father is getting remarried, and it so happens to be that his stepmom will be the mother of the 2 girls that he is quote unquote in love with. Like, it's a very like trashy scenario, and kind of just, I think it only goes through I think it goes through a little bit of high school. I don't know if it goes all the way to where they graduate in high school, but the manga at least continues past that from college, and Natsuo is a writer, and it kind of delves into like his career, and also kind of goes back and forth with like the love that they feel. But because you can actually get that complete arc, it makes the trashy kind of melodrama that the anime created, it sets it up very well, that things kind of start to calm down and people start to mature, and then the ending happens, and the end is questionable, but at least being a part of, but at least for me, like I was reading Domestic Girlfriend on a weekly basis when it was still publishing, and I remember when the last 2 chapters came out, like the entire the subreddit like blew up. I would not recommend the anime. I would recommend the manga, definitely. Dr. Stone it's good. I mean, it's science shonen. Like, what more could you ask for? It does feel very shonen-y. Like, it is very shonen-y, but the fact that it's just, like, science, like, if you're into that and you're into, like, discovery, I think it's cool and innovative. Yeah, I mean, it's a good show. Dragon Ball Z Kai. This is the show that I watched as a middle schooler when it was airing on Nicktoons. And I think if I try to watch Dragon Ball now, like, I would probably give this a lower score, but I'll give it a good 5. Maybe it's a 6, maybe it's a 7. Just because there are like such iconic moments that happen in Kai. And if you don't know, I think the original Dragon Ball Z includes Goku's life as a kid, but Kai skips straight to the Raditz arc. Goku's Super Saiyan transformation, I mean, I still get chills from that occasionally. I don't think it's aged particularly well, especially with pacing, but Dragon Ball will have a special place in my heart because it was one of my first. Dramaturgy, okay, I think it's a music video by Eve, and Eve did the opening to Jujutsu Kaisen, the first season, or the first core. And yeah, I mean, he makes other music. It's also very good. Definitely check it out if you enjoyed, I think, Kai Kitan. you'll enjoy his other stuff. How heavy are the dumbbells you lift? This show, I mean, I already did weightlifting before this aired. I just wanted to see like how accurate is this. Some of the stuff that they say are pretty good advice. I think they do try to make it so that like, hey, you know, the gym isn't a very scary place, especially if you go with friends. And if you have people to motivate you, you know, your weight loss journey and muscle building adventure can be fun. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? I really did not like this show. I originally watched this, so I watch like 97% of my shows are in the Japanese dub, but I could not, for some reason, that Belle and Hestia had like, I think their voices were way too high in the Japanese dub, so I had to watch it English dub, and that one was a little bit more bearable because I just wanted to see where this was going to end up, because my friend was like, he was really recommending like, hey, you know this is a pretty good show, second season, third season, pretty good. But yeah, I was just a little underwhelmed. I don't know what I was supposed to expect. I thought it was going to be a little bit more like harem-y, which maybe the later seasons kind of get into, but it just felt like, hey, let's go adventuring in dungeons. And I mean, if you're into that, cool. I couldn't really get with it. Aiken is something you should not watch if you are under the age of 18, and you should not watch in public. You should watch it under your covers in the privacy of your own room, door locked, headphones on. It's fan service, but it's like impressively done fan service. Like, it is like, if you take fan service is like usually out of 10 and then you just kind of crank it up and just be like, I want more. Like, if this aired today, I feel like it would get canceled instantly. I mean, it was only, I don't know if I necessarily recommend it. If you want to watch like something very blatant, like disgustingly lewd, sure. Otherwise, just don't. Aramanga Sensei, I think I gave Aramanga Sensei a 6 or a 7 originally, but then I kind of thought about it. I was like, you know, this show was really weird. I think when I watched it, I was like, I want to see if I can actually like disregard like the whole, you know, ecchi kind of things, the kind of incest stuff, and just try to see like, is this a good show just based on its own merit? And well, it's not. If you want to watch it for the memes, for the trashiness, go ahead. Otherwise, stay away from this. X-Arm is just bad. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot to say about it. Like, if you watch the trailers and you see how blatantly bad the CGI is, like, that's fine. Like, I wanted to watch it to see, like, you know, this has really bad CGI. The voices aren't synced up with the mouth flaps at all. There's some scenes that are in 2D, and then you have like 3D characters just sitting next to them and they look robotic. There are like some fight scenes where like there's no music, like they forgot to add it in, and they forgot to add in like sound effects, or like the sound effects are off. I did like the opening for a little bit, and then I added it to my Spotify playlist, and then I was like, I don't think I should like this song. But I saw the voice talent and it was pretty stacked actually, and so I was like, you know what, let me watch this, let me give it a shot. Let me see if the story is actually redeemable. It wasn't. Literally, like, all aspects except voice acting was bad. You know, like, if you want to see what an anime shouldn't be, the, like, epitome of a 1, watch X-Arm. Fairy Tail. Okay, here's the thing about Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail was, like, one of the first anime that I actually started watching to get back into rewatching anime. And honestly, like, I enjoyed a lot of the earlier arcs. I think the wizarding world is a really interesting premise. The world of magic, very cool. And I like the interactions between Natsu and Gray and Urza, Lucy. I just think that it starts to fall flat once you're able to see how kind of formulaic the arcs are and all the battles are. Then I'm like, okay. And like a lot of the fights is just like good guy, good guy is winning, and then the bad guy like powers up and then he beats them, and then the good guy's like, oh, how are we gonna beat him? And then they're like, oh, but the fire of friendship, and then they fight again, and then maybe you start losing, but they're like, oh, but no, my friends, and then, you know, they win in the end and all is happy dory and nothing bad happens. Which is a shame, because like I genuinely like enjoyed the first couple of arcs of Fairy Tail. And maybe I do have a video idea of what I want to talk about in Fairy Tail, but I think for what it's worth, Fairy Tail is a good show until it starts getting more repetitive, and that just kind of saps my enjoyment that I know what's gonna happen. I know how this is gonna go. But I mean, I hope someday I'll finish Fairy Tail. I don't know if I have the willpower to sit through another like 150 episodes, I think. To all the Fairy Tail fans out there, I hear you. I respect it. Love what you love. Good on you. I couldn't find the same enjoyment after the same formula, time in and time out. Okay, Fate. Let's talk about Fate. I haven't watched Fate Zero yet. So far I've only watched Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel, and I mean, I don't know if I wanted to get into Fate. I wanted to understand and like appreciate the world. Why is there like such a phenomenon around Fate? Is it just anime girl designs? Is that why we're watching this? And you know, good animation, and like that's all I was really able to get out of it. Like, yes, the animation and fight scenes, amazing. Rin, Saber, Sakura, you know, great girls, great choices. I think there's a lot of things that went over my head, and maybe when I watch Zero that a lot of things will be explained. But as for right now, I think it's a good franchise, and there are some fight scenes that have like really wowed me, but I feel like there's like there's some philosophical side that I need to tap into that will like take this from like a 7 to like an 8 or a 9. But there's probably a YouTube video out there that I need to watch that'll explain that. Fully Cooley is basically a bunch of like anime music videos just plastered together with the pillows. There's nothing wrong about that. I think it does talk a lot about growing up, and it's a very metaphorical coming of age story. I think some of the metaphors kind of went over my head, but yeah, it's a good time. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This is a very good show. I think I do have some qualms with it, especially with pacing in like, I want to say like the third or fourth core. But I mean, at least all throughout, it's an interesting world. I just wish that they used a little bit more. I wish that there were more like elemental alchemists that kind of came to the forefront, and like using that was more, at least for like Mustang, like, oh, you know, if there's water, he can't activate his fire. I wish there was like more like strategy and alchemy used there, but it's just more like, but I can't really name like specific instances where that was applied outside of like Mustang. They're lovable characters, great voice acting. The comedy is pretty good at times. And I think it does get more serious and less, you know, comedic from like the first season as you go towards the 5th season. And I think the way that it wraps up all the bows very nicely. I think there's a lot to be said about FMAB, but yeah, a very good show. To Your Eternity. Okay, I liked the first episode. The first episode moved me. I thought, yes, I'm in for something special. But after watching like a couple of the arcs, like it just felt like, okay, I know where this is going. You introduce the character, and then like their backstory, something bad happens to them, or like something good happens to them, and then okay, now you start crying, and that's feels like the whole series. I thought I was going to enjoy this, but maybe it's just because, again, mindset is very important, and I wasn't into being very emotionally stirred when I was watching it. The first episode of To Your Eternity is probably one of the best like opening episodes that I've seen. Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. This is an okay show. I think it is cute and comical. I don't really remember like anything like too spectacular about it. It's a very cute show. Very, very cute, kind of lighthearted slice of life. So if you're looking for that, give that a shot. Ghost. I think Ghost is my personal favorite song from Susue, and especially how it goes along with the music video. Susue is probably my favorite artist in at least the JP branch. She releases a lot of great stuff, so highly encourage you to give that a shot. Jubiate. This is also a terrible show. This is like a reverse isekai, and they're like CGI monsters, and they all look terrible. I think where it ended, it was like setting up to have a second season. I don't think it's gonna get a second season, and I think that just, I don't know, it just makes it funnier. It's just a bad show. I don't really remember what happens. I just kind of repress this in the back of my mind of how bad the like CGI was. Silver Spoon is a high school farming anime, and I remember I took agri-science in high school, And basically we just learned about farming and tools and methodologies. I just remember it being like, it was like an easily hard class. Like, it was easy in the sense of like most of the days we didn't do anything, but when there was a test, there was stuff that he didn't talk about, and so that was like the most stressful part of the class. And I think we went to our farmers market for a field trip. Watching this anime just kind of reminded me about all those all those experiences in agri-science. And I mean, it's a very good show. I remember feeling very moved by it. I forget why specifically, but it is a very good-hearted show, especially the second season. There's a lot of funny moments. There's also there's a few sad moments, and there are a couple of times where it does want you to kind of think a little bit, but always brings you back and says, this is still fun. This is still a fun experience. Goblin Slayer was, despite, the controversy of the first episode, I thought it was an okay show at first. I thought it was kind of just okay. I was like, oh, this is just like fantasy. It's just a fantasy show. And then by the end of it, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. I get why there are all these like stories, but I don't know. I was just kind of underwhelmed with the whole fantasy aspect. But maybe that's the point. That like, hey, it's all about goblins and goblin killings, but I don't know if this is actually gonna get a season 2, but I feel like with the second season, it can actually expand on the world, and there's more to kind of sink your teeth into. Way of the House Husband. This is actually, I actually found this pretty funny. Say what you want about the whole, like, the fact that this is just an animated, like, manga panel. Whether or not that helps enhance the comedy, I think it's a good, lighthearted show. I don't think it's not meant to be anything super serious, so the fact that it's animated in that way, like, I don't think it necessarily detracts from any enjoyment that I would have necessarily. It's just a good show. Gotcha. If you haven't seen this music video, it's a music video featuring Pokemon and I think Bump of Chicken, I believe is their name. And just like, it just kind of goes through the journey that we've had through Gen 1 all the way up to Gen 8. And yeah, this was a very moving music video. I honestly teared up because of it, just like with all the memories kind of flooding back of playing Pokemon as a kid. It's a great song, and I think very well animated. Grand Blue. I mean, Grand Blue, I think Grand Blue in anime and manga form has made me laugh out loud. Like, both. I mean, it's just a good drinking, diving manga with the boys. Like, that's all this really is. Like, if you want to have a show that will make you laugh, that's Grand Blue. That's Grand Blue in a nutshell. It's not going to make you think super hard about morals or anything. It's just alcohol, college, girls, boily antics. There's so many running bits in there that are so memorable. I don't know how Grand Blue will actually conclude, if it ever sees a conclusion. But I mean, at least for the time being, I'm enjoying the ride. Great Pretender. Great Pretender is amazing. I'm in love with just like the color palette that they use and the soundtrack. And if you haven't watched Great Pretender, honestly, like, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Great Pretender is about like con men, and there are 4 total arcs where there's like supposed to be like some sort of plan that goes down. There's supposed to be a plan that goes down, and there's a whole kind of goal. Whether it's generally just stealing money or something or an object. And I mean, it's just a fun adventure. I think at some points it does get very deep and a little bit dark at points, but there is like kind of a light atmosphere generally when there's like an actual, like, when the heist is like going down. It feels like a light-hearted version of like GTA 5, but I mean, GTA is also kind of a little, it does feel light-hearted at some points because it's so ridiculous. And Great Pretender definitely has like some of those like ridiculous kind of moments, but I found myself loving it throughout the whole thing. I couldn't stop watching this. Haikyuu, I still need to watch the third season of Haikyuu, but I mean, what I've seen so far is that Haikyuu is, I think it's like one of the only sports anime that I've ever watched, but I mean, it does it really well. It actually got me like interested in volleyball and like watching it during the Olympics, so it's a good show. So I mean, if you've not watched a sports anime, Haikyuu is honestly like the perfect gateway sports anime. Hajimete no Garu, I think this is a weird show. There are a few parts about this show that are very questionable, but it is actually kind of wholesome at some points. I have very mixed feelings about it. I would only honestly like recommend just watching it just to like see like, do you feel like it's a good show? Do you feel like it's a bad show? Do you feel like it's just an okay show? Like, I put it as a 5 because I wasn't really sure like if I liked it or I didn't like it, because there are, again, questionable things in there. Amatsu no Mars, I mean, this is like Miyazaki being like, hey, yeah, anime was a mistake. Like, anime was a mistake with this one. It's a bad OVA. If you want to see what like bad writing is, bad animation, bad art, yeah, go watch this. I think it's only like 20 something minutes, so it's pretty quick. Hanamonogatari delves more into Kanbaru, and I mean it's good. It's not much to say. Okay, so this I know there's Harmony and Harmony. The first one, it's about music, and I think about like a prodigy that once he hears a tune, he can play it back. It's a thinker, and I could say the same thing about Harmony, the second one. They're both kind of thinkers, whether or not you're into that. You know, if you're looking for a movie that will kind of get you kind of thinking a little bit, I think they're both good shots. Devil is a part-timer. This is just a reverse isekai, just done well. It's funny. It has lovable characters. It's the devil working at McDonald's and the hero working at like a call center. Like, it's just peak comedy. I'm so glad that this actually got a second season because I do want more of McDonald's. Hingi Shoujo, I think this is like the one where the girls turn into like machines. This is a quick watch. I don't think anyone should watch this. If you are bored, sure. But other than that, you should be fine not watching this. Heya Camp. I love Eurocamp. This is just more Eurocamp, albeit a bit short-lived, but it's good. Eden of the East. I might also make an Eden of the East video. Basically, the prompt is like, if you were given, I think they're given like $10 million, how would you use that to change the world? To make the world perfect or better? And what's your interpretation of that? And I think that's an interesting kind of proposition. I like the first season, but then the movies are the continuations, and it ends with the second movie, and the movies just kind of lost me. I don't think I enjoyed them as much as the original series, but I definitely think at least the original series is worth a watch, and whether or not you want to continue, that's up to you. High School of the Dead. High School of the Dead is crazily animated, but yeah, I don't know, I just wasn't having it for the fan service. I was just like, this is all it is. It's just fan service zombies, and like, I understand it's very like turn your brain off, but I think when I was watching this, I was like, I want something a little bit more substantive. But it's a good time. It's a good time if you're into that. Hinamatsuri is a really weird show. It's good. It's just comedy. There's a lot of just weird things that happen in it. If you're looking for a very random and like kind of sporadic show, this is actually a very good one. There's not really a lot I can say about it because all of it's just gonna sound out of context. Like, so there's like a girl that comes in a pod and she has like psychokinetic powers, and she becomes the daughter of like a Yakuza member, and she goes to school, and one of the girl's friends starts working at a bar even though she's underage, but she makes like the perfect drinks, and there's a lot to unpack in the show. Just give it a shot. It's 12 episodes, lots of fun. Hololive Alternative. I think this is just a music video. I mean, again, if you like Hololive, you probably know what this is. Go watch it if you haven't. Howl's Moving Castle. I did not like this movie. I was honestly kind of bored watching this. It just felt too Disney-like to me. I was like, okay, I kind of get it. I think I've only watched 2 Miyazaki films, and we'll see the second one in a little bit, but yeah, this one I didn't like, but the other one I did. Hunter x Hunter. I would give Hunter x Hunter a higher score if it weren't for the Khmer End arc and the election arc. At least up to there, through the Greed Island arc, I really, really like the world of Hunter x Hunter. The music was something that I wanted to, like, I was listening to while I was working. Like, I feel like the pacing for a shonen, especially through the first couple of arcs, were very good. And it just kind of comes to like a full alt in Chimera Ant, especially like once the operation begins. Like, they spend like, I don't know, it feels like they spend like 3 episodes like climbing stairs, and I'm like, what happened to my pacing? Like, there were like so many things happening in just a single episode, and now it's just like, hey, let's talk about this octopus and his trauma. And I'm like, I don't really care. But I mean, Hunter x Hunter, the York New City arc and the, I think, Heaven's Arena are such great arcs. And learning about the power system and everything. It took me, I think I was able to catch up. I was able to finish the Hunter Exam arc up to the Greed Island arc in like 2 weeks, which is a fast pace for me, especially with like, I was interning at the time. And then when it came to the Chimera Ant arc, like, I don't know, my interest is kind of dipped with the pacing, and then trying to finish the election arc, which I feel like didn't need to happen. Especially with the way that it concluded, I was like, okay, I mean, I don't think we really got anywhere. And I mean, they foreshadowed the Dark Continent arc, and it kind of just ends there. And I would still watch more if more came out, but I think for where it ended in like an okay place. But it did feel like a show that started very strong and then just kind of dipped in terms of my enjoyment. But I know people that really love this, and you know, I can't harp them for that. If they're able to get over, like, you know, the qualms that I have with it, yeah, I mean, I can't see why this isn't a 10 out of 10. Hyoka is such an interesting series. Like, Hyoka is worth watching just because of the way that mysteries are explained and the way that they're solved. The metaphors and just the art that they make, trying to have you understand what is going on in like Araki's head, makes this such a unique show. And I wish this gets a second season, but that may never see the day. But at least with the first season, it is very much like a slow burn. Like, it's a mystery slice of life, so like nothing crazy is gonna happen. Like, it's not like they're gonna be like solving murder cases. They're just like solving mysteries like around the school and stuff like that. It does bring you back to like a time of naive childhood innocence, which, you know, I appreciate. ID Invaded, this is a police mystery show, and it's honestly, it's good. I think it's good. Like, I don't think it does anything like super out there. I think the premise, I'm blanking on the premise, but I think the reason I gave it only a 7 is that it starts out good, and then it kind of just pitters out a little bit towards the end. But if you like your kind of true crime, I would highly, highly recommend this. Isekai Cheat Magician, oh boy, this is a terrible show. Like, I know people like to harp on the name, like, oh, you know, haha, Isekai, Cheat Magician. Okay, this is just like, you know, typical fantasy words, but the world itself is like, it's the most generic worlds you can think of. It's the most generic characters you can think of. It's the most generic storyline you can think of. Like, it doesn't do anything new, and it doesn't do anything like particularly well. Like, it's just very bland, which I would give it a 5, but I just didn't enjoy anything. So I was like, you know, this is a 2. Maybe it's worth giving it a 1, but I think I won't give it a 1 because of the teacher. If you've watched it, you may know what I'm talking about. That's about it. Isekai Quartet is just, if you don't know, it takes like the biggest isekais, so ReZero, Konosuba, Saga of Tani the Evil, and Overlord. I think they add in Rising of the Shield Hero in the 2nd season. And I think they have Cautious Hero also added in there. And it just feels like a Konosuba episode, but with a bigger cast of characters. Like, you get to see interactions between Amelia and Megumin, who share the same voice actors. So it just makes for very funny moments, because all the isekai characters are just very out there, and so just kind of merging them all together, it's just a fun time. I'm trying to remember the English title of this. I I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. This is a fun MMORPG. And that's it. This is like if you just took a newbie and they just somehow broke the game to like the highest extent. And that's it. Like, it's just fun. It's a fun, lighthearted adventure. Maple is very cute. Even though she can kill like anything and nothing can kill her, it's a fun show. Yo, Sport Climbing Girls. This is the rock climbing anime, and it's kind of just okay. I've gone rock climbing like twice, and I've shredded my hands both times. I mean, like, if you're into, if you want more cute girls do sports things, this is a good show for you. Okay, here we go. This is JoJo. It took me a while to actually get into JoJo, and I do have two friends and they watch anime, and they've both expressed like how they've tried to get into it. They've tried to watch the first season, but they just can't get past it. And I get that. Like, JoJo isn't for everyone. It's a very, to me, JoJo feels like an entirely different experience than any other anime that I've ever watched, which is like how distinct the art style is and how crazy some of the logic is, especially after I started reading like part 6, 7, and 8. There's some stand powers that I don't understand how Araki came up with. It's hard to recommend JoJo because it is a shonen series, but it never really feels all too shonen-y. And there are like some dark things that kind of just happen, especially in like part 5. But I mean, the one thing that I can appreciate about the JoJo series is that very rarely do we see a series start and end and get animated. And this is an example of this. And I hope that with how popular the franchise is, that all the way to even when part 9 finishes, that will still also get an adaptation. Like, I don't know if I would recommend it to people. I just think that it's a show that if you're looking for if you still want to watch anime but you want something different, then that's what JoJo is. Like, it is literally the built different meme. It took me until the second half of part 3, which is like 50 episodes in, to actually start liking the series, which is kind of a tall order to say, hey, this series gets good, but 50 episodes in. But what I do appreciate about the series as a whole is that each part feels similar in the fact that like there's this kind of like crazy logic, but there's kind of like genre just differences between each of the parts, with how like epic part 3 is, and then kind of how like laid back part 4 is, and then how it kind of just ramps up in part 5 and 6, and especially part 7 just being a horseback race, and then part 8 we go back to Morio. Amazing. It's just such a great experience to be able to have multiple different stories, multiple different protagonists, but all of it being in the same world. And that's what I love about JoJo. Maybe I'll make a video about JoJo later, but I would recommend trying to start it. If you can't get into it, it's okay. It'll always be there for you to be picked up. But if you can't ever pick it up, it's okay too. There are the memes. Josie the tiger and fish, I think this is what this translates to. This is a good movie. I don't really remember a lot of what happened. I just remember that there's a guy and he's like into diving, and like there's a girl and she has to be in a wheelchair, and he ends up like taking care of her, and there's a love story. Yeah, I just remember it being kind of sad, but there's a little bit of happiness to it. I actually very highly recommend watching this, especially if you're looking for a movie. This, I feel like it's not as big as a commitment as watching a full-on series, but yes, very good movie. Jujutsu Kaisen, I mean, what's there not to say about it? I mean, it's just very good shonen fun, like very well animated, characters are great. If you want just fun, good shonen anime, that's what this is like. And I think there are like some kind of deeper things that you can talk about especially with how Itadori is kind of focused on like how do people want to die, like what does it mean to die and pass on. I think that's an interesting theme to kind of touch on, and does give him a bit more depth as a character. Kyaai. I do want to make a video about Kyaai. Like Kyaai like actually kind of changed me weirdly. Like it made me happier. Just like it just took my like baseline happiness and just made it this like permanently gave it a stat increase. And I don't know why. Kyaai is hard to recommend. Like it's just cute girls do music things. I mean, I think the way that it ends, especially with the movie and the second season, it's bittersweet, but I think it wraps up what a slice of life is meant to be. That it says what it needs to in high school, and you see them graduate, and you know that they're out there living their lives in college, but we're not there to be a part of that journey, and that's okay. I think there's actually like a lot that can be talked about in Kyaai. So Kaguya-sama, I mean, this is my all-time probably one of my favorite manga, and then also one of my favorite anime. I also do want to, I kind of do want to make a video about Kaguya-sama, but Kaguya-sama is, I mean, first and foremost, it's a comedy romance anime. If you're keeping up with the manga, it is now like a drama politics manga, which maybe some people aren't super into, but I think that it does make sense in that the world of Kaguya-sama presents like, hey, you have these kids that are part of like elite families, and when you get into like the more serious arc, so you talk about like the fireworks arc, and then the sports festival arc with Ishigami, like that kind of helps to contextualize like what it means to be a kid of a member of high society. That it's not just, oh, we go to this fancy high school and we're here to just learn. They're all there because they have a purpose to serve in, higher society, in that kind of upper echelon. And so being able to have those moments where you're able to delve into characters and it gets darker, like it makes sense. And it gives depth to what would just be like a very good, funny rom-com. Like I do appreciate all the humor and, all the Apex references and Among Us references that Akka puts in. But being able to develop characters like that and delve into their psyche, and this is very chill. I would honestly, like, I'm looking forward to the third season, especially for what may or may not happen, but I won't spoil. But Kaguya-sama, if you've not watched it, please give it a watch and just at least watch the first episode. If that's not your cup of tea, then I mean, you probably won't like the series as a whole, but yeah, very good show. Kaicho Maid-sama, I watched this because my friend, she recommended it, and I gotta be honest, like, I was like, man, this feels like such a mid-2000s anime. Like, just character designs and the things that happened. I'm also not really like the target demographic for this. I just thought it was okay. I think there were some episodes that were like cringier than others. There's some episodes I was like, okay, yeah, I actually kind of like this, and there's some episodes I was like, I want to skip this episode so bad, but I will get through it because I'm a completionist. Yeah, I mean, kind of an okay show, but that's from my perspective. I know some people that really like this, but yeah. Kakegurui, I don't know why. I think I tried to watch this once, and then I watched the opening, and then there was like a panty shot, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to watch this. I'm good. I'll pass on this. But I came back to it because I wanted another school anime that was like Shokugeki, and this is one that I was like, okay, there's like a kind of like a class system, and it's just gambling. And I mean, what I'll say, soundtrack, great. The animation of you getting like basically spat on when they're laughing, I mean, if you're into that, cool. It's kind of an interesting show because it's just based on gambling, and how do you write a compelling story when some of it relies on you losing or some of you winning, and like I think it does an okay job at that. I am curious to see where it goes if this ever gets a third season, and I hope this does because I need more of Jabami. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Kagushi Goto, I think this is about a manga artist that draws like very lewd things, and he like has the kind of pretext that he's a normal businessman and needs to hide that from his daughter, that he's a manga artist from his daughter. I think this is it's a good show. It's very touching, very lighthearted at some points, but it does get kind of serious at some points. I remember being the ending like kind of sad. I don't know if that's actually the case though. But yeah, I mean I don't know if I would recommend it, but if you want lighthearted, kind of, if you want a little bit lighthearted with some drama in it, I think it's a good watch. The Day I Became a God. This was a bad show. I thought I was gonna love this. The setup was there, and then it just kind of burned in flames in the couple last episodes. Like when I was watching this weekly, I was like, yeah, this is going somewhere, and I thought like, yeah, I was getting invested with the characters, and I feel like it was kind of going somewhere to like this big grand reveal. And like towards the end, like it was gonna be a very waterworks type of show, and it wasn't that. It was like a very slow burn into like despair, and I just didn't really like it. It just kind of missed the mark with me, and I think a lot of people kind of felt the same way. But the art's pretty. That's about it. I think some of the music is good, but yeah. Rent-A-Girlfriend. Oh my gosh, Rent-A-Girlfriend. The only reason I watched Rent-A-Girlfriend is because I kept seeing the opening, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give this a shot. I watched the first 3 episodes, and then I was like, I need more. And so I read the manga, and I mean, I'm still reading the manga weekly, so I don't know if it's something about Chizuru or Kazuya. I just want to see the dude do well, but I don't know. I definitely do want to talk more about Rent-A-Girlfriend in depth, but I don't think it's a series that I would recommend. It's not like particularly good. I think it was just compelling for me to read in my case, for which I may talk about in that said video. Kara no Kyokai, or I believe Garden of Sins is the English title. As a whole, it's good. This series in particular, like, if you really do want to delve into, like, there is a lot of like philosophical things that you can talk about in this, especially like the last episode, I think episode 8, or the epilogue. There's a lot of stuff that you can talk about with like souls and being. But I mean, I want to watch it for the fight scenes, and I mean, Ufotable delivers, and Shiki is best girl. So I thought I was gonna like it a lot more than I thought I would, than I did. I thought this was gonna be like constantly like 8 or 9s, but it is good action, somewhat memorable characters, and yeah, I mean, if you want to delve into kind of the deeper implications that the series has, that's definitely there. Teasing Master Takagi-san, I mean, this is just like good, wholesome middle school fun. I think when I was watching this, I was like, this is like Death Note, but if instead of death, it was teasing, and that's it. Like, it's just good, wholesome fun. If you're looking for a good laugh, that's all you need from this. This next one, Crying for Rain. I think this is the actual opening to Domestic Girlfriend, and I would think I would listen to this like on my walk to lecture. I don't know what that says about me, but I thought it was a good song. Keijo. I also want to make a video about Keijo too. Keijo is fun. It's a good time. Like, when I was watching with my friend, she thought it was bad and like just it's too much fan service, but I had a good time with it. Like, it just felt so out there, and like with all the references it makes to like other shonen anime, it's just a good time. It's a good time, and the fight scenes, I think, just animated really well. So I mean, despite how absurd the premise of Keijo is with fighting with your body parts, I think it's a fun time. I'd recommend it. I'd highly recommend it. Kill la Kill was, I think, one of the first anime, again, that I watched trying to get back into anime. I think this was actually the first subbed anime that I watched. I thought it was amazing. Like, I was blown away. I think this is the first time hearing Sawano, and like, this is the first time like I was actually hearing Don't Lose Your Way in context. I think there were just plot twists in here that I didn't see coming. Honestly, like, don't be put off by like all the ecchi. I think it's actually like a very good, compelling story. And I think it's honestly, of like all the trigger works that I've seen, Kill la Kill stands at the top. Kimetsu no Yaiba, I mean, what's there not to say about it? I mean, it's a good simple shonen story, very well animated. Episode 19 honestly actually made me cry. Just because literally with how I knew people were like hyping up like episode 19, and then when I finally got to it, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm crying now. I can't see how well animated this is because of my tears. And I just felt the same way about the movie, and I did watch the TV series as well, and I think the movie was a little bit better. Maybe just because I wanted to sit down and actually just watch it all in one go, in a clean format without having to click next episode. I mean, I still need to watch I think it's the Red Light District arc that's out right now. I still need to watch that. I've heard very good things about it, but I mean, as a whole, the story, it's very good, very simple, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Kimi no Maiwa, yeah, I think this one hurt me. This is so many twists and turns near the very end of it that I was like, not on the edge of tears, but I was just like, man, I this better resolve well, or else I'm going to be destroyed. I think this should be like on everyone's plan to watch as a movie. And this next one, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, I thought this was going to make me cry, and it didn't. It's about a girl that has, I think, pancreatic cancer, hence the name. And I believe the reason that it's called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, if I remember from the movie, it's because if you eat a certain body part, like if you eat like kidneys, like your kidneys will be healthy, and she has pancreatic cancer, so she wants to eat pancreas. Or I could be completely wrong about that. But I thought this was going to make me cry, and it didn't. The emotional impact just didn't really hit me as much. Our Last Crusade, or The Rise of a New World. I thought I was going to like this, and then I didn't. This is like a very, I think, like Romeo and Juliet-esque type of story. I don't remember anything like particularly great about it though. Yeah, it just feels like another like fantasy story. It's not an isekai, which is very surprising given the length of the title, but it's just a fantasy story, and yeah, I don't think it's anything like too crazy, but maybe you want a fantasy story and you want something simple, and this kind of offers that. Okay, the Kishibe Rohan OVAs are kind of crazy with the stuff that happens. Like, they don't explicitly say like, oh, this is because of like stands, but they're just like kind of like ghostly things. I mean, if you're a fan of JoJo and you've finished part 4, go ahead and watch this. Like, it's just it's more JoJo. Like, you know, I'm not gonna complain. Kiss Sis, I kind of liked Kiss Sis. I mean, it's ecchi, and that's it. Like, that's all. Like, if you're watching Kiss Sis and you're not watching it for the ecchi, I don't know what you're watching it for. There's nothing more, there's nothing less. That's really all that there is to it. And you know what? That's okay. So there's some series that, you know, if you're looking for that, go ahead. That's fine. I did watch the OVA. I think the OVA is more haunchier from what I've heard because it didn't have to air on TV. So if you want more of that, watch the OVA. Kizamonogatari, I mean, the art is a very different departure from the original series and is a prequel to Bakemonogatari, and I mean, it's just so well done. It's more Monogatari, but with like a movie budget, so it's gonna be amazing. Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, I still need to watch the second season, but I mean, the first season, it's just fun times. It's like Kyoto Eni, just being a slice of life and just having a good time. I know that there are like controversies that have popped up here and there because of the character designs, and I mean, if you can get past that, I mean, it's just a good time. Koi Nakatsuchi, or A Silent Voice, this movie also destroyed me. Like, I remember, I think I watched the trailer for this whenever this came out, and I didn't watch anime at that time. I think it came out in like 2018, I want to say. And I just remember feeling like really uncomfortable, like, oh, this is like bullying, and they're like ripping out her hearing aids. But, you know, after getting back into anime, and I was like, I feel like this is something that I should watch because I loved anything that Kyoto Eni put out. And I mean, it's very uncomfortable to watch, like seeing the bullying that happens, but then kind of following what that does to a person and how that kind of affects them and the way that they develop as a person and the way that they try to kind of rectify that, but then also saying like, hey, you know, are you just trying to make amends just to make yourself feel better, and just like to say like, hey, I'm still a good person, or is this something that you're actually doing because you genuinely feel sorry for them and you want to actually, you know, become a better person and be the better person in this scenario? I think it's a very beautiful story. I don't know if I would make a video on this, but because it's very sensitive, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about it. Komi-san, I mean, I love Komi-san. It's just again, very good slice of life, very well animated, good jokes. Maybe they do get a little bit repetitive, especially with how a lot of her classmates are just character archetypes, but at least for what was presented in the first season, they translated the manga humor very well. And I think like the social anxiety of Komi was also really well translated. I think that was like a big fear that like when people were wondering like if it was going to get animated, like how would they translate Komi, because she's just like facial expressions and like occasional like sounds. But I think it worked out very well. Konosuba, I mean, Konosuba is just a good time. It's just like, in terms of isekai, like it is top tier. Like it is my personal favorite isekai. It's not anything deep, it's not ReZero, but it's just a good fun time in a fantasy world. I know that the light novel finished, but I really hope that we'll actually be able to see the end of what happens in Konosuba. Like any time that we'll be able to get to see the gang all together, like it's a good time. Garden of Words, I mean, this was an okay. I think I watched this again at like 7:30 because I was like, hey, let me just put something on. I mean, Garden of Words, it's very pretty, but I don't really remember what happened. I'm gonna be honest. That's why I gave it a 6. Anyway, Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is a good movie. I know this is also like was like kind of like a pioneer of like anime films that like kind of push Western. That's also very popular in like the West. There's some like philosophical things that they say, but I don't know if they say it like super clearly, and I don't know if that's necessarily on the fault of the viewer or the people that made the movie. But yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. Little Witch Academia, okay, I watched the movie, I didn't watch the actual series. I just remember like, yeah, this just seems like kind of like something that is good for a general audience. I don't think that's me though. Made in Abyss, now this is something that is not for a general audience. This messed me up, like especially the movie really messed me up. Actually, like Made in Abyss episode, I believe it's episode 10, and if you watch the series you might know what I'm talking about. Like I have never felt so uncomfortable watching a show. Like I genuinely had to cover the screen, just look at the subtitles, put it on 2x speed and mute it because I couldn't bear to listen nor watch what was happening on the screen. I mean, it's a contrast of, you know, the chibi explorers with a very cruel and unforgiving world, and I mean, like, I hope we get to see the end of it. I don't know, I think the manga's still ongoing, but I hope that, you know, the manga is able to reach its conclusion and that the anime will also be able to reach that same point. Madoka Magica, also another one that really messed me up. Both the original series and the movie that came after it. I think I tried to watch Madoka Magica, and I watched the first 2 episodes, but I think the plot twist where like everything starts going dark is episode 3 or 4. I mean, you know, just having the, you know, sparkly magic girls and then contrasting that with like the darkness that they have to fight off, like it's such a good time. And I know there's also like a lot of like deep thoughts that you can also talk about in there. But Beyblade, yes, I don't think I own my Beyblades anymore. I think I must have given them away. They might be sitting in a box in my closet though. Yeah, I mean, Pegasus, El Draco, that's all I remember. I think there's like Libra. I think a lot of their like zodiac signs were used too, like Leo. Actually, you know, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I would watch this on Cartoon Network and I would play Beyblade with my friends. Actually, I don't think any of my friends own Beyblades. I think I I bought the arena, and then I would, rip Pegasus in there, and then I would get another one and be like, oh, haha, go Libra. And I remember I got really excited to buy El Draco because all of the Beyblades spun clockwise, but El Draco, if you've watched the show, it spins counterclockwise. And I thought, I was like, hey, this is cool. Yeah. This next one, Engage to the Unidentified. I don't know why I think I watched this because there's a certain clip that kind of circulated and made its way around memes. Also, the opening and ending are, I think, also very good. It's like an okay love story. I think it's like, again, I give it a 5. It's average. I don't know if there's anything like particularly good or particularly bad, but it's a fun watch. Shoko Tensei. Now this is a show. I watched this with my friend and she hated it for like all of like the etchiness, the fan service, and like what felt like needless fan service. To me, like when I saw that, I felt like Paul, Rudy's dad, like seeing his behavior, the way he like treats women, like that to me, like, is it justifiable? No, like, but to me it made sense in the context that they were in, that hey, they're presenting this like fantasy medieval world. This behavior, I feel like for the time makes sense. Is it justifiable? No. Again, it's not justifiable. You shouldn't do that. But for the time setting that it's kind of going for, I get where they're coming from. And with the Greedy being like a very like perverted character, but I feel like the whole point is that like, yes, he starts out as that, but then especially once they get transported again to the demon continent, like you see that start to change. And especially with Eris, like Eris especially goes from like the prissy like tsundere character to being like a character that's full of adventure and energy and wanting to learn and explore. And like it's interesting to see like how much they develop. And I think that's the most important part of the series, that like, yes, it is an isekai, yes, there are power fantasy elements of it, but the core of it is taking this character that was shunned from in his past life and reincarnating him and seeing, can you make him a better person? And I think there are a lot of points where you see him that he's improving as a character, and he's going through like, and he's fighting like the mental torment that he went through as a shut-in and hikimori. And at least for like, for isekai standards, it's obviously like amazing, like the amount of depth that it gives. And it's not like needlessly like, oh, it's just fan service. Like there is like kind of like, I feel like there is a little bit more point to it because of who he is as a character. But there are some points that I'm like, okay, I don't think we need to see this. But I would highly recommend Shoko Tensei if you can kind of, if you're comfortable with those kind of like more sensitive, like looter kind of adult topics. This next one is A Whisker Away, and this is again an okay movie. I only really know it for like the ending song. I wouldn't really recommend it. I think it's about like cats, something like that. Which whiskers, I wasn't really into it. Nami, this honestly, like, do not watch this. Like, this is if you are under the age of 18, you should not watch this. If you're over the age of 18, you can watch this. I still wouldn't recommend it just because it's kind of just really weird. I won't say any more because I feel like that will make people more curious. But yeah, it's not worth your time. 7 Deadly Sins. Okay, I gotta admit, I did like 7 Deadly Sins. I thought the first season was good. I know people talk about like, oh, Meliodas is like the typical perverted character, but I don't know, I just really like the contrast between like how bright and chipper Meliodas is, and then, him getting revealed to be the captain of like one of the strongest bands of Holy Knight to ever like exist in Britannia. That, and Sawano soundtracks, they hit hard. Perfect Time, amazing song. I really like the fact that 7 Deadly Sins was a group of bad guys and they were being hunted and kind of feared and wanted. But no, we're the people that they follow. And then I think it just kind of lost tension in the second season. And then onward from there, it just kind of still continued to lose me up until the end. I did read the 7 Deadly Sins manga because I think I started reading it before the third season started, which thankfully I did because I was able to experience what the manga was going to be like, and then seeing how bad the adaptation was the third season. But I don't know if I necessarily recommend it to anyone. Like, it's a very good starter show, but yeah, I don't think it's necessarily anything like super special, but I know a lot of people that really do enjoy it, and that was me for a little bit. And then the kind of this latter half of the story just kind of tainted my taste for it. Why are you here, teacher? This is just like a lewd show. Like, this is just, when I watched this, I enjoyed this because I was like, okay, you know, it's just lewd situations. This is just this is teacher and like students and romance. Is it unethical? Yes. Is it the plot to Domestic Girlfriend? Half of it. Maybe that's why I kind of enjoyed it. If you're into like lighthearted, ecchi shows and romance, this is a good show. Naruto. I mean, what's there not to say about Naruto? Like, I grew up on Naruto. This was my childhood. I wanted to be a ninja. I wish ninjas were real. I wish the Chunin exams were real. I mean, Rock Lee vs. Gaara will be ever ingrained as one of my personal favorite anime fights. I mean, the Naruto versus Sasuke fight, when Naruto has their Sengon and Sasuke has the Chidori, like this, like it's such an iconic fight. Kakashi versus Abuza, Naruto and Sasuke versus Haku, like there's so many good fights. I just don't think that like Naruto necessarily aged well, again with the pacing, but for me, but at least for me with all the nostalgia, I appreciate Naruto for what it did and how it introduced me and dragged me into the world of anime. Neko Monogatari Kuro, I don't actually remember what this was about. I know this delves more into Hanekawa, but I don't know what this was about. I'm just gonna say it's more Monogatari, so if you're into that, it's good. I mean, if you watch Bakemonogatari, I mean, you should probably watch it all the way through, because apparently it just gets better and better. So, Evangelion, I mean, I made a video about the end of Evangelion, and at least the original TV series didn't really make a lot of sense to me when I watched it. I just don't think I was in the right headspace. I was watching like Steins Gate at the time, and I was like really enjoying that, and then you know, to have Evangelion, which was also very like heavy into science, but I knew that, you know, I was watching a legendary series that, you know, has stood the test of time, and people are still talking about it to this day. For me, at least, the original TV series, like, it's something that I feel like I still need to go and rewatch, so I can kind of have the understanding and appreciation that I got out of the end of Evangelion, and kind of use that to like rectify like that. Maybe I do actually enjoy the Evangelion franchise. But at least for the end of Evangelion, I mean, it taught me a lot. Like, I think I watched that at a very good time where I was just very introspective and thinking a lot about the future. And I think I watched it at a very good time, at least headspace wise. And like, at least for recommending Evangelion, like, it's hard to recommend series where they're gonna make you kind of think and kind of question the way you go about your life, the way you think about things. I mean, maybe to some, like, I'm kind of over-exaggerating, like, you know, that Evangelion will change your life, but I mean, there are some shows that they have that kind of profound effect on people, and at least for me, the end of Evangelion did do that for me. If you're looking for like kind of like an answer in life and you're going through tough times, I think that Evangelion can offer an answer for you. I don't think it's the most direct way, but I think if you kind of search for it in the whole scientific jargon and you kind of pay attention to the characters and their interactions and their dialogue, specifically their like inner monologue, I think that's the most times where you can kind of get more introspection. Recovery of an MMO junkie. This is a very average show. As the name suggests, it is about a MMO junkie who is recovering. Like, I don't think this does anything like super special. I mean, I played a lot of MMOs, and I mean, I've definitely sunk in a lot of time into them, but yeah, I don't think I necessarily enjoyed this one. Okay, Nisekoi Monogatari. I haven't watched Nisekoi. I do need to watch that, but this was like a 1 minute like crossover. I don't think you need to watch it unless you're craving that. Nisekoi Monogatari, I mean, it had the very infamous toothbrush scene. I think I actually really enjoyed this because of, I think this might be where Senjigahara cuts her hair, and also we get to talk about like Tsuki and Karen. And yeah, I mean, I just enjoyed seeing more of the interactions between the Araragi siblings. No Game No Life. I actually didn't really like No Game No Life. I thought it was very pretty. I think the music was good. I enjoyed the references, but I don't know, it just kind of left me empty. I feel like if No Game No Life actually got a season 2, then maybe I would change my tune on that. But yeah, as for what it was, I was just like, okay, they're here and they're gonna win games, and that's about it. I just want more. I just want more No Game No Life. Origami, I think this also runs into the same problem that No Game No Life did, is that, there's no continuation of it, so there's no place for the story to go, and so I kind of just felt like, oh, this is where it ended. I just feel like it didn't end in a good spot. That kind of just tainted my view on the series as a whole. Odd Taxi is a fantastic show. I would highly recommend that anyone listening to this, please go watch Odd Taxi if you've not. It's a little hard to sell without going into spoilers, but it basically puts together like a bunch of plot lines from the point of view of this taxi driver, and they all kind of interact and intertwine to form this overarching story that is actually wrapped up fairly well by the end of it. I mean, and they are all animals, but honestly the character designs help them stand out a little bit more, rather than just being like, oh, we have generic protagonist 1 and generic antagonist 2. Like, oh, we have a walrus and a monkey. Like, who doesn't want to see that? One Punch Man. Okay, this might be a controversial take, but I did not like One Punch Man. Like, to me, the joke of him defeating things in one punch got old by like the second episode, and then I was like, okay, there's 12 more episodes, there's 10 more episodes of this. I don't know if I can get through it. And like, there were some points where like the comedy was there. Like, I feel like the times that I enjoyed One Punch Man the most were where it was Saitama like just trying to do like daily tasks, like trying to go to the grocery store, and then there's like a monster in his way. Like, that to me is like, okay, yeah, it's just this average dude that is just trying to live his life as like as frugally as possible, but there are just things happening and monsters, and he needs to deal with that. I mean, yeah, like the art and people talk about the fight animation, like, yeah, I mean, it's great, but I kind of wanted a little bit more to the story, but maybe that's something that is there in season 2. But yeah, Wolf Children, I also did not like Wolf Children. I thought it was an okay story. Maybe it's because I'm not a mother myself. I just didn't really connect with the characters. I didn't really feel the emotional impact. I know that like it does talk a lot about, what does it mean to be a mother? What does it mean to take care of your children? What does it mean to have the best for them? But yeah, I just personally, I just didn't really enjoy it. I'm sure there are a lot of people that enjoyed that too, though, which if you did, good job for you. Yeah, I just didn't really enjoy this all too much. Orisuki, are you the only one who loves me? This was meant to be like a jab on the harem genre, and then ended up becoming the harem. Like, the whole gag is that the main character is like a side character, and his friend is like the actual Chad that people want to like get with. And I think there are like some funny moments, but I think just like as a whole, it's just like okay. And it was okay. It was okay. And the way that it ended, I was like, all right. I don't know if I recommend this, but this next one, My Next Life is a Villainous, All Routes Lead to Doom. This was a reverse harem otome game, and I mean, it's okay. I think there's some people that actually really like this. To me, it's just like a very sweet, very kind of casual fantasy world, isekai world. It has its cute moments, but I don't really know if it necessarily offered anything else. I was gonna watch the second season, and I was like, I don't know if I enjoyed the first season enough to go and watch the second season, but I know there are a lot of people that enjoy Katarina Kleiss and all of her antics. Awesome game. This is a terrible show. Basically, everyone is like given orders, and they're like, hey, you need to do these things or else bad things will happen. And it just becomes a high school death game, basically. And yeah, I feel like it takes itself way too seriously for what it is, and it just misses the mark. It's, again, if you want to see a bad show, this is a bad show. Overlord, I mean, okay, I watched Overlord because I like the protagonist, as a bad guy premise. I don't remember what happened in the first season, and I was like, I don't think there's like anything in the first season that really stood out to me that was like, yeah, this is a really good show. I know Overlord does have its like pretty big fans, but at least from what I've heard, like the second and third season don't live up to how good the first season was, and I didn't really enjoy the first season all too much, so that's why I haven't started the second or third. I think they did announce a fourth season though, so maybe someday. Penny and Stocking, I mean, this is a show that if you do watch it, I would kind of recommend trying it in dub, just because they curse a lot in the show, and I feel like that has a lot more effect if you hear it in English than Japanese. Basically like Powerpuff Girls, but raunchy is the best way to put it for me. Yeah, I mean, if you're into that, you're into that. I think the problem is that I binge watched this, but I don't think you should. I think you should need to treat it more episodically and kind of eat it in small little bites, and that you might enjoy that a little bit more. Paprika and Perfect Blue, I'll talk about them both because they're both Satoshi Kon movies. I mean, they're both amazing. Like, I did enjoy Perfect Blue more than Paprika, just because I understood a little bit more what Perfect Blue was trying to say on like a deeper level than what Paprika was. But they're both very like deep. I don't know what is it. They're not like super deep shows, like, but what's great about them is that you can enjoy the story just as it is. But if you want to delve deeper into what you can kind of take away from it, what I enjoy about the movies is that you can kind of just watch them on their own and you can enjoy them like that. But if you want to delve a little bit deeper and try to find a little bit hidden meaning, it's definitely there. That to me is like what a lot of entertainment should be. Like, you can watch it on its own, and if you're fine with that and you're content with that, then you can move on with the day. That's great. But if you want to look deeper, you can, and I think that just makes these such great movies. Mulan was like literally my life from maybe like age 4 all the way up to like 12 or 13. Like, all the games, I just want to play all the Pokemon games. I want to watch Pokemon anime every single morning on Cartoon Network, and I wanted to watch all the movies. Yeah, I mean, Pokemon just holds a very special place in my heart, just with how much time I've been able to spend with it. I mean, I haven't really had time to play a lot of the recent Pokemon games, but Pokemon will and always will have a special place in my heart. Speaking of special places in my heart, Prison School. Prison School is a wild ride. It is not something you should watch in public or where others can see you because of the stuff that happens in here. Prison School feels like if you took the guys from Grand Blue and then dropped them into an all-girls school. Like, that's what this feels like. And honestly, some of the characters kind of look the same. I mean, like, Prison School, it's just a very funny, very lewd show. There's like some action scenes in there and like some like psychological stuff that goes on. Like, honestly, I would recommend people give this a watch if you can take that. Promare is just like testosterone on steroids. Like, Promare from start to finish is like ecstasy for the eyes and the ears, because again, Sawano does the soundtrack and he nails it again. Yeah, I mean, it's just a good movie. Like, it's about firefighting. I don't know if there is much to say about it. Like, the animation and fight scenes are all great. Like, it's Trigger doing Trigger things. Pupa is just Pupa is weird. I would not recommend you watch Pupa. It is bad. Well, okay, if you want to watch a bad show, Pupa is a good bad show to watch. It's gory, and I don't think it really says anything. It's just gory and like incesty, and I don't know if I'm not into that, I gotta admit. ReZero I would kind of put into the realm of Mushoku Tensei, in that it takes a character and puts them into a new world, but they still hold their past traumas. Especially in, I think it's the second season, where Subaru is actually able to come to grief with the fact that he's not with his parents, and like there's the whole like kind of dream sequence in the trials. And I think that's something important that a lot of isekai don't touch on, that you just took someone and they're living this new life, but it's not like all their past trauma is gone. And we see Subaru, who kind of goes from like ecstatic to living in a new world, and then he gets broken down and starts from zero and he's brought back up again and, you know, trying to find his own path. And I'm glad that people enjoy it and that hopefully this will get a third season, because I want to see ReZero all the way to its end. I feel like with ReZero, we've only scratched the surface of how deep and vast the world actually is. And that's something that the first season kind of struggled with, that, like, you know, we were introduced to this world and that's kind of it. But then, you know, with the second season, we actually get to delve into this, and I'm glad. So if you've not seen ReZero and you want an isekai that actually has character development, interesting characters, give it a shot. This, oh man, I love this anime. This is, I fell in love, so I tried to prove it. This is about like computer programmers trying to prove the fact that they've fallen in love, and it's nerdy. Like, there were just concepts that they were talking about that I've heard in like my undergraduate classes that were showing up in here, and I enjoyed hearing about. I don't think it's for everyone. It's just like a very like nerdy, goofy romance. It does have a little bit of melodrama, but there's like some comedic aspects of it. It's a good time if you're kind of into those things. Ristorante Paradiso. I mean, this one is like, when I watched this with my friend, I described this as NTR, the anime. Like, it is about cooking. And the story is about this girl that goes to Italy and she wants to go find her mother and her mother's restaurant. And for some reason, it's only employed by like older men that all wear glasses. And that's something that they talk about like a lot, that guys are wearing glasses. Basically, she like falls in love, kind of, but a lot of them are like married, and it's kind of weird and messy, and I don't really know what this series was trying to do or say, but I enjoyed it. I was like, hey, there's cooking. I don't know why I actually gave this a 7. I feel like I need to move this down to a 6, but I'm gonna leave it there. This next one is Belle, and this is Beauty and the Beast with VTubers, basically. I mean, it kind of expands to like whole like virtual avatars, not necessarily just VTubers, but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the music. I didn't really enjoy the story all too much. I thought it was like kind of okay. I think like the whole point of it's like, hey, you know, the internet allows the anonymity to push you to actually do things that you may be uncomfortable with doing with your, you know, your actual real face and yourself. But you know what? Hey, you know, positive message. I get it. Kyaai is, it's just a good show. It is a good, funny slice of life show. It has such good comedic timing. It's one of those shows that like I kept laughing every single episode. Like, I was actually like laughing hard out loud while I was trying to fall asleep. I mean, what's good about this is that there's like 4 actual like bits that they do in an episode. And so like if there's one bit that isn't really hitting it for you, yeah, you just need to wait like a couple minutes and then they're gonna introduce a new one. So it's a good show. Haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto? This is a weird show. This is about a dude that's like basically perfect in every single aspect. This is like the Sigma male. And it's a weird show, but it's good. I mean, it's funny. It's good. If you just enjoy, you know, more like school antics, like, yeah, you're gonna enjoy Sakamoto. This next one is Makia. Makia kind of destroyed me, I gotta be honest. Like, I didn't really follow the whole fantasy storyline. This movie does focus a lot more on like motherhood, and it is kind of a tragic story. It is very, very sad. Like, the ending really broke me down. Yeah, I highly suggest this movie. School Days is I can't decide whether or not I actually like School Days. Like, on one hand, I enjoyed the ending. On the other hand, I semi-disliked the stuff that happened in the middle. Like, when I was watching School Days, like, at least the first couple of episodes, like, I was like, you know what, this isn't that bad. This is actually, like, kind of decent. Like, if this came out today, I feel like it would hold up as, like, a, you know, your typical slice of life school romance. And then it just kind of gets, like, darker and darker and darker and darker. And then the end happens, and, like, I don't know, when people say, like, oh, I hate a character, I feel like it's very, maybe this is kind of a good, like, if a story is able to make you hate a character, I feel like that says a lot more than a character that you just don't remember. Like, I will remember School Days because of how crazy Makoto was and the things that he did and what happens to him. Maybe like I've debated between putting School Days at like a 7 or like a 4 or like a 2. I don't know if I put it at a 1 or a 10. I just kind of live somewhere in between, depending on how I'm feeling at that day. But if you've not seen School Days, I'd actually very recommend you watch it. Bunny Girl Senpai, I mean, this is, well, a lot of people say is like very similar to the Monogatari series, which, you know, it's a fair comparison. It's also just like a very good introspective show talking about the kind of troubles of growing up as an adolescent. Is a very interesting, very good coming of age series. Spirited Away is the other Ghibli film that I watched, and this one I actually enjoyed. Again, it does feel very like Disney-esque, but I didn't really mind that, where I did mind it in Howl's Moving Castle. I think I'm just a sucker for Spirited Away soundtrack in particular, especially the main theme. I mean, I don't know what to really say about Spirited Away, it's just a good time. Warlords of Sigtrifa. This was a weird show. I was kind of looking forward to this. I think this was an A1 Pictures original, and this was written by the same author of ReZero. So I think a lot of people kind of hyped this up. And this is literally like cute girls do warplanes things, and that's it. Like, it's really weird because I thought this was going to be like a very dark show, especially for, you know, coming from, you know, someone that wrote ReZero. I thought this was going to head in like a very dark direction, and it didn't. The show just like did not meet my expectations. But I mean, if you want to see warplanes and cute girls, sure, give it a shot. Serial Experiments Lane. This is like another trippy show. I mean, it touches on the same things that Perfect Blue just touch on, like of us existing in two separate worlds with virtual identities. What does it mean? Like, who is the real one? Who is the fake one? Are any of us like technically being our true selves in either realm? You know, for something that came out in, you know, the late 90s, like it says a whole lot more today than it, you know, did when it came out. And I think like the art style, while it maybe not hasn't aged super well, I think it gives it like a very interesting look, a very rough look. Lane isn't a show that I would recommend people to watch to enjoy. It's, again, like another like thinker type series, but one that I recommend nonetheless to eventually watch if you're in the right mindset. Shadow's House, I don't really remember what happened in the show. I just remember I was like, okay, you know, there's dust, and that's about it. Shelter, I mean, I am a big Porter Robinson and Marion fan, and I was a fan of theirs like in 2014 with Adventure in Worlds, and then when they announced Shelter in 2016, I think that was like literally crazy to hear that news. I mean, Shelter is probably one of my all-time favorite songs. Like, it would only be rivaled something that's on Good Faith or Nurture, which are Madion's and Porter's latest albums respectively. I mean, music aside, music video is beautiful, so that's all I'll say about that. Your Lie in April is, I tried to get back into anime like in my junior year of high school, and I was like, oh, let me look on Netflix and let me see what anime they have, and I was like, oh, this is an anime about music. I do music. And I think I got a couple episodes in, I'm like, why am I crying? I don't want this. And I think I dropped it actually. Eventually I came back and I picked it up, but I mean, Your Lie in April it's a great show. It is very sad, but if you are, you know, into music and the kind of struggle that goes along with perfecting that craft, this is a show that's definitely for you. Link Click, honestly, I would recommend to anyone. It literally, from the first episode, this encapsulated me from what it tried to do, and the cliffhanger that we got at the end of this season, like, I need a second season to happen. I know they did get announced. I just don't know how long it's going to take, but whenever it does come back, I will be waiting for it with open arms. Like, Link Click is just, it's just able to explore like different people's stories, and it does so in like a very beautiful way, very kind of precious way. And I mean, I really enjoy the kind of interactions that the main trio have together, and the way that the things that happen in the first episode kind of weave its way through into all the way at the very last episode. This next one is Flavors of Youth. I think this is 3 different movies, and I remember I enjoyed the first one, and then the other 2 I don't really remember what happened. I mean, like, this is just about food, and you know, if you want to see more stuff done by the same studio that did Your Name, then you might enjoy this. Shimoneta, I mean, this is also another show that I recommend trying out the English dub because of the kind of innuendos and profanity that is used. It is a very lewd show, but I think it's a fun show. Basically, like, lewd things are banned, and there's like a terrorist organization that's trying to bring lewd stuff back into the world. And I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's also just a good time. Cautious Hero was it was a good show, and then I think the very last episodes kind of solidified that, like, yeah, I need a second season. I don't know if it ever got announced, but basically this hero that is, you know, isekai'd is very careful, and, you know, will spend his like entire mana pool like trying to defeat one slime. And it's like literally like Overkill the anime, but when you learn like why he's like that kind of just elevates the series. I mean, it's a good isekai. I think it's a very cool, vibrant world. I hope we get more of it though. I mean, Attack on Titan, I mean, what's there not to say about Attack on Titan? Like, Attack on Titan is amazing. I mean, we're in the final season part 2 right now as of the airing of this video, and Attack on Titan is a show that, like, I'm so shocked that I never got spoiled on anything of it. I think I actually started watching it like maybe, I think 2 years ago. I think summer of 2020 I actually started watching it, and I mean, I was able to binge it in like a few days, which again to me like is very fast. I mean, the world building, the music, the voice acting, art, animation, fight scenes, like everything about it, like I feel like Attack on Titan just does amazingly well, with all of it culminating with season 3 part 2. And then, you know, here in the final season we're kind of like building up again to like have something massive. And 2 of my friends, they've read the manga to the completion, and you know, I've heard things about the manga, but you know, I'll make my own assessments whenever that gets adapted. So Shinkai, I think this is another music video for Eve. Again, if you have not, go listen to Eve. Great artist. Shokugeki. I tried to watch Shokugeki in high school, and I watched like the first episode, and then things happened with like the squid legs and like peanut butter, and I'm like, okay, this isn't the anime. This isn't Naruto. This isn't the anime I remember. But I remember coming back to it just because like I enjoyed cooking. I was like, you know what, I can get past the ecchi. And I mean, I enjoyed like the first 2 seasons, and then I think it kind of just goes downhill once they introduce like an antagonist. I feel like the series may have been more interesting if they just went through Soma's life in Totsuki. You know, maybe there was like an actual reasoning because of like declining sales or whatever, that the story had to be different. But yeah, I mean, Shokugeki has a very special place in my heart. Records of Ragnarok. I did not like this. I thought this was kind of boring, I gotta admit. There was like 3 or 4 fights that happened in 12 episodes. I thought the pacing was just like really weird, and like I feel like I could predict who was gonna win. Honestly, like, I would not recommend that. Now, A Place Further Than the Universe. Now that is a show I would recommend. I mean, I made a video about it, and I mean, I love this anime to bits. Like, if you want my full explanation why, like, please go watch the video. It's just my perfect package of trying to find your place in the world and trying to make something special with good company. Soul Eater is actually the first anime that I watched when getting back into anime. And I remember getting like halfway through and I was like, this is really boring. Is this supposed to be boring? And then the ending happened, and there was like Maka being like, hey, I can defeat you with the power of like courage and words. And I was like, I don't know what this series is doing. I think the first arc was like pretty good, but yeah, there's just things that happen in the series that I was like, I don't understand. Like, why did the final boss like need to be only handled by like these 1-star students? Like, aren't there like 2 or 3-star students? Like, couldn't they pop in? But you know, I don't write this stuff, so. Sonan desu ka? This is Are You Lost? This is cute girls do survival things. And that's about it. If that sounds interesting to you, give it a watch. Steins Gate is amazing. Like, when I watch Steins Gate, which maybe this isn't like the correct way, quote unquote, the correct way to watch it, but I watched it all the way to, I think it's episode 22. Then for the 23rd episode, you watch the 23B, which leads you to Steins Gate 0, and that leads you all the way back up to episode 23 and episode 24 of the original series. And I think watching that, like, it definitely like delayed the gratification of, you know, figuring out the way that it ended, but I honestly liked watching it that way just because of what happens in Steins Gate 0. It really helps to emphasize why it's so important, of what happens in episode 23 and what happens in episode 24, why that's so important. I mean, like, Steins Gate is just like one of, if not the best sci-fi anime out there, so if you haven't watched it, please do yourself a favor and please put it on your plan to watch list. Summer Wars was good. I just remember it being really weird. Like, I remember there being a boat and there's like a hacker portion of it, and there's like also like the same like weird avatars and like that you see in like Belle. But I think it does like touch on like some very cool points of like family and stuff like that. So it's also a pretty good movie. Haruhi. I mean, I love Haruhi. Like, as much as people rag on like the Endless Eight, which I feel like now, like, yes, you can just like watch, like, I think there's only like 3 episodes that you have to watch. I watched all of them because I just kind of wanted to see like the differences, and I mean there weren't really many. I was just kind of bored. Haruhi as a series, at least, it's a very good series. I think it just has that Kyoto Annie slice of life charm, and then the way that kind of culminates into the Disappearance movie, which is, in my opinion, like the best anime source material movie out there. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video, but yeah, I love Haruhi. I wish we'd get it like another season, but if that happens, I'll go crazy, but it may not happen. SAO, I mean, I talked about SAO in a video again, specifically SAO 2, specifically the Mother's Rosario arc, but I mean, SAO is I think SAO, at least the first season, it did lose its tension in the death game, but I think it kind of redeems itself in SAO 2 as they kind of focus more about games, and then how that goes into ordinal scale kind of just like wraps a nice tight bow around the first 2 seasons, and then Alicization is kind of what SAO should have been, and spends a little bit more time away from Kirito to develop other characters. You know, people that like it probably are still watching. If the people that hate SAO probably have not watched it, so whether you're not like SAO or not, I think it's a good series. Rising of the Shield Hero, like, I'm looking forward to the 2nd season and 3rd season. I think there's just so much more to explore from what the 1st season presented. Like, again, like, it's just very like, it's very hard to kind of rate Shield Hero just because you're rooting for Naofumi and his party just because everyone else is just like terrible people, and like that's it. Hopefully when 2nd season and 3rd season come out, there'll be some more good times up there. Techina Senpai, this is it's about a girl that does magic tricks but then fails very badly and then ends up in very like ecchi scenarios, which if you're into that, you're into that. Gurren Lagann, I mean, I didn't really enjoy Gurren Lagann all too much. I feel like I need to rewatch it. I don't know, the thing is, I don't know why I didn't like it. Maybe I just don't like mecha in general, but yeah, I think I need to go into the headspace of like, yes, this is gonna be very over the top. I think when I was watching it, I was like trying to I wanted something a little bit more, again, something with a little more depth to it, but I think headspace, again, very important when watching a show. That kind of determines how much you're gonna enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, I respect Gurren Lagann, and especially the end fight is crazy. And all the quotes that kind of came with this show, like, again, massive respect. Weathering with You, I did not like this movie. The story just didn't really click with me. I just didn't really develop an emotional attachment with the characters like I did with Your Name. It was pretty, but yeah. Skelter Heaven, I mean, this is another example of anime as a mistake. Like, again, if you want another bad anime to just watch and you have 20 minutes to kill, go ahead. A Girl Who Leapt Through Time. This is a pretty good movie. I don't really remember a lot of it, other than the fact that when the girl leaps, she goes through time, and that's about it. Konikaku Kawaii. This is like a wholesome romance. If you're into that, you know, this is cute. But when I watched it, I was like, I think I was looking for something a little bit more. Tsuki ga Kirei. This emphasizes like the awkwardness of like middle school romance to a T. And it does a really good job of it. And I think the way that this story kind of concludes, it actually wraps it up very nicely in like a 1 minute ending sequence. They actually encapsulate like a lot. Yeah, I mean, this is just like an innocent love story of what it means to fall in love in middle school. The kind of like troubles that go along with that. But Tsurezure Children, this one was just like a bunch of like romance. Don't really remember a lot from this, which hence why I give it a 5. But yeah, this is a very slice of life show, episodic. If you're into that, you're into that. MILF Sakai. I do want to make a video about MILF Sakai. Despite me giving it a 1, there are some things that I do want to talk about that actually did move me, which maybe sounds surprising, but I'll probably elaborate on it there. Fireworks. I mean, the music video was just scenes from the movie. The song, pretty boppin'. It's pretty good. I mean, a lot of VTubers cover it, and you know what? I see why. It's very good. The actual movie itself, though, I didn't really understand. It's been a while since I watched it, so I really forget what happened. I think what the movie tries to explore is like the realm of like the possibilities of what if, like there's so many different things that could and could not have happened, but I feel like the way that it went about it was very confusing. Umisi and Unison. I mean Unison, very good song, great music video. Like it is very trippy, but Marin like nails all the vocals, and like her singing ability is absolutely crazy. Umisi is a collaboration that Ina, Gura, Aqua, and Marin did because they're all related to the ocean. Even though Aqua is like a gamer onion maid, but they somehow tie it together. It's funny to watch it knowing Ina and Gura and trying to think like, and trying to keep in mind that like this was made with like a Japanese audience in mind, because Ina just makes puns and like flat jokes, and Gura just says a lot. I don't know. It's just funny to hear them voice act and hear them interact together. Uzaki-chan. I did not like Uzaki-chan. I read the manga because I thought I was gonna enjoy it in preparation of the anime coming out, and then the anime came out and I was like, okay. Uzaki is a little bit too annoying for me. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding Uzaki-chan with like her body proportions, but you know, I was like, okay, whatever. I don't want to dip my toes into that. Vampire Homes. This is also an example of another really bad show. It's just like, it's about a vampire who also solves mysteries, but he's not good at solving mysteries. And like the fact that he's a vampire, I don't think they really bring up all too much. Like it's a very confusing show, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. The art is also like kind of inconsistent, but like inconsistently inconsistent. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, it's bad. If you want to watch a bad show, Vampire Homes. Vinland Saga. I mean, I don't know how I can tell Vinland Saga. Like it's just a good show. Like it is brutal. It's dark. It's gritty. Like Vinland Saga is a show that you can give to like a non-anime watcher and they'd be like, okay, I can watch this. Like there's nothing very anime about it. It just feels like a very raw show that, you know, anyone can really enjoy. And I think that's maybe part of the appeal, but I mean, a lot of it that I really enjoy is just like how gung-ho all the Vikings are. Violet Evergarden. I still need to watch the movie. The thing is with Violet Evergarden, it's one of those shows that you have to be mentally prepared to watch it, or else you're just going to be destroyed. And I haven't been in the mindset to be like, yeah, I want to cry. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful show. Like, I can't really say a lot about it. It's just beautiful. Now, Visual Prison, on the other hand, this is about visual K vampire boy bands, and yeah, they compete by singing, and their singing like turns into fight scenes. I mean, if you're into visual kei music, maybe you enjoy this. I did not enjoy this. I mean, Vivi, like, Detroit become waifu, you know, Cyborg, Terminator, Hatsune Miku, like, whatever you want to call it. Like, Vivi is just a very good show. Like, I think it just says what it needs to in 13 episodes, and like, it ended, and I'm very happy with like where it ended up. Like, if you want a good anime original that starts and ends, Vivi's your show. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? This is cute girls do isekai things. The opening is very cute. That's all I really remember. The reason why this is like an isekai power fantasy is that the main character, she says that, oh, she wants to be average. And so it takes the average of like an elder dragon and like a snail, and like, so that's still grossly overpowered. Wotakoi, or Love is Hard as an Otaku. I also do want to make a video about this. This is a very good show. If you live, you know, a regular life and you need to hide the fact that you watch anime or read manga or play video games from other people, yeah, this is your show for you. This series does indeed say a lot about society. Origairu is literally like taking high school love and then making it like the most complicated thing possible, but then somehow making it enjoyable because of the interactions. And I think like there are some like very dramatic scenes that, you know, if any regular high schooler would never go through, but I feel like they do bring out some interesting points, specifically like Kiki talking about wanting something genuine in the second season. I mean, that's something of like, yeah, what does it mean to have a genuine friendship where there's no like cohabitation or anything like that? Maybe that's worthy of making a video of later, but Origairu, very happy that it ended and the way that it ended. I know that the light novel is still ongoing. I don't know if they'd adapt that though, but I'm happy with where the series met a conclusion. Promised Neverland, I mean, first season was good. Second season doesn't exist. Like, literally, they crammed in like 140 chapters worth of content into 11 episodes, and like the slideshow at the very end of the second season, like, I don't know what happened, because like Promised Neverland, like at least the first season, like I thought did really well, so I don't know why they just kind of condensed everything in the second season. Like, did they just not get the budget to do a third season, or did not get greenlit? But I mean, the manga itself I think is a worthy read. It's, especially for what was skipped over in the second season, a lot of what people would consider to be the best arc in Promised Neverland occurs, you know, is in the manga, and it should have happened in the second season, but it was not covered. So if you enjoyed the first season, I would recommend just go and read the manga. You don't need to watch the second season. Yojo Senki, again, I really like the whole, we're evil, but we're also the protagonist. This OVA down here about pasta, like they spend it, I think that they like devised this whole like military operation so that they can have like a feast, which, you know what, I kind of respect. And like, it just feels like magical Attack on Titan with the way that their like magical levitation devices work. I hope we just get more Tanya. Classroom with Elite, okay. I really enjoyed the first season, Classroom with Elite. I enjoyed the mind games, the psychological elements, especially the island arc. I did not see any of that stuff coming in, especially the plot twist at the very, very end of the first season. It's not really a plot twist, but more of like a character reveal. I didn't see that coming at all. And the fact that this is going to get a second and a third season, I'm very hyped. I don't know how much it's going to change, because I know a lot of people are talking about how the light novel is very different from what the first season showed, and that's why this kind of got a lot of backlash. So I don't know if the second season or third season is going to try to rectify that or what's going to happen, but either way, I'm just glad that we're getting more of this. Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, it's time to duel. Like, I don't know what else to say about Yu-Gi-Oh! I just remember I quote unquote played Yu-Gi-Oh! With my cousin once, and like he slipped like Exodia into his deck, and then he just kind of played it, but he only played like the card. He didn't get any of the hands or the legs, and he was like, okay, I win. I was like, oh, I lost. When Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an anime, it's over the top, it's crazy. Yudo Camp, I mean, I talked a little bit about it, but Yudo Camp, I do want to make a video about Yudo Camp, but it's just warm soup for the soul. Like, it is everything you would want in an anime that if I want to just go back and relax and sit down and have a good time, Yudo Camp is the one for you. it's cute girls do camping things, but it's never like too overly cringy. It just feels fun and relaxing, especially the music. Like I will listen to the Yudo Camp soundtrack all day, every day. In fact, I do, like when I'm working on things, I will put on like solo camping, 10 hours. That's all I need. And finally, Senkyu no Terror, or Terror in Residence. Terror in Residence honestly feels like a movie, and it's very somber, and it kind of goes through a lot of like, it's a very interesting premise and show. There's a lot to kind of say about it, from like the music. Honestly, like the like Icelandic music just makes the whole series feel like very like not distant, but kind of retrospective and like very somber. I love the character designs and the things that kind of happen with like the terrorism and the kind of like police kind of mouse chase of them trying to figure out where they planted bombs and things like that. Like it's able to manage to say a lot in 11 episodes, and the way that it ends, yes, it's very somber, but it's a show that I honestly do very cherish in my heart, especially mainly just because of the music. Like Vaughn is such a beautiful soundtrack. Yeah, anyway, that's my entire My Anime list. Let me know if you have any recommendations for me down below, or whether or not you disagree or agree with me. And if you're making it to the very end of this, congrats, because I'm looking at my OBS right now and I'm seeing 3 hours and 30 minutes of recording. I hope I parsed that down a little bit, but this might come out to be 2+ hours, so I guess this is just like a podcast episode by myself. But yeah, anyway, that's it for me. So to everyone in the world, thank you so much for watching, and until we meet again, take care, everyone.